Our guest this episode is Nick Borelli. With more than 2 decades in digital marketing and live events, Nick has made it his mission to bring people together through intentionally designed experiences. Through his consultancy, Borelli Strategies, he shaped campaigns, personas, and principles for B2B organizations and large-scale gatherings. Later at All Seated, he led his team to build a hybrid meetings platform for global organizations. He's also worked with companies like Gartner, 7-Eleven, and Sephora, and he's currently the marketing director for Zenus, an ethical facial recognition technology company. He shares his thought leadership on stages, webinars, and trainings, and here to discuss the future of marketing and how event professionals can be empowered by AI. Please welcome Nick Borelli. Welcome, Nick.
Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage.
Thank you. Boy, it sounds like I've done a lot of stuff. It's really,
I know. It's a lot.
Hear it all said like that. Jeez.
So, I'm going to try to recapture the magic, put the toothpaste back in the toothpaste tube a little bit, because we started naturally yakking away and we were recording, I guess, technically, but I didn't.
Cutting room floor stuff. Yeah.
Cutting room floor stuff. And so I think I just want to pick up right there. Well, it's still warm.
Yeah.
We were talking about Julius Solaris and his influence on the events industry and just really kind of blowing up. And actually, in a way, he's really shining a light on or championing an industry that really hasn't had a real champion before.
I don't think we have. I think we've only had people that internally we may know within our own industry, but they don't actually, their voices don't get loud enough to really get outside of that, number one. And number two, I don't think we've had a lot of people who are critical to the status quo events, but also still love it. Like the love of events seems to turn into this sort of cheerleader thing where most of the commentary comes on sort of just telling everybody that they're doing great and they're great, as opposed to a sort of a champion that says we could be greater and pushing people into outside of their comfort zones, but with love. Like I know Julius really well, and I know that he has deep relationships with people all over the events industry. Like it is personal for him. But at the same token, like he has a vision that, as a singular entity, it's a singular vision, but he has a vision as to what would be pushed to do maybe more. And I don't think we've had one of those. Most of our voices have been associations, which generally don't try to step on anybody because they can't. That's who pays the bills. As a sort of independent, he's a little bit more free, I think, to be able to do that. So that's my opinion as someone who's been in the events industry for a little bit, just to see that we haven't had, I don't think, a person like that. The other thing is that he came in at the right time, right as social media was at its brightest. He intuitively understood the platforms as an individual and as a proto influencer before I think at this point he could be considered, especially within the events industry, probably the influencer. I think, right place, right time, right skill set, and maybe right demeanor, but we've got him, and it's never boring. I mean, I think that's a big part of it too. It's entertaining.
And you need that kind of, punch Goliath in the nose kind of thing. And that Goliath sometimes can be, CEOs pushing back against event marketing budgets or like the people that say there's no ROI in events and all of that. I think the collective frustration of, event managers, of the event professionals, kind of just like, you ask all of this of us and then you don't even believe in it,
I agree.
So that kind of person to lead from the front, I think is needed. And
I think that pain point is very well articulated, that we the way that you just said it is that you ask so much of us and you think so little of what we do. I think that's the central conceit of the pain associated with the role of an organizer or planner, is that they're almost treated on the negative side like an operating expense and not like a channel leader. And they're, not even considered one of the, the more prominent channels. Whoever the head of digital marketing is frequently gets more people lean into what they have to say. Did you know how many comments we got about this or that? And everyone's interested. Meanwhile, no one cares about who went to what sessions, and not realizing that type of information, as far as individuals voting with their feet, and having all the barriers to get through to actually attend an event, is so much more valuable as a signal, understanding an audience and a customer base. So I think the disconnect comes in not understanding the full value of what events offer. And then I think if the C-suite did, they would raise up the event organizer, the planner, to a loftier position. They might ask more, but they would also be willing to give more. And I think that would be a healthier place to be. And that's I think, what needs to happen in order for everyone to reach their potential. I just think events are underappreciated.
Yeah, and I feel like also finally now, and we may segue into Zenus.
What say data is going to be my prescription for a lot of these ills.
Well, that's just where I'm seeing this go, is that finally data is catching up to where we need it to be. We
Yeah.
just kind of, years and years ago, we were pretty sure events were a good idea.
Soft. It was all soft.
Like
Yeah.
they're yeah, soft
I
value,
got the
right?
feedback from events. You would talk to a field marketer, and and they would go back to their boss and they would say, how'd the event go? And it was really good. Okay, they go to
Yeah, that's right.
Excel and they look at every other channel and the numbers, and they're like really good.
Yeah,
Well, tell me more. It just had a great vibe. Like we were really, we were busy. These are just not things that you can
yeah.
build
It felt
upon.
it felt better than last year. It
Yeah,
felt
yeah, it just
right,
felt
like
really good.
yeah,
Okay. It's like
yeah,
mysticism, right? Like it just
right,
feels like star signs, as
right.
far as that. So I think all of that reporting created a cycle of soft reporting, soft benefits, and then the feeling of investment into those channels was also soft. It was like, can you do the same thing you did last year, but like less money with less? And imagine asking sales that, right? Hey, you did pretty well this year. You're a big part of our success. If we reduce everyone's, commission by, 2%, can you do the same? They would quit, or marketing. We want to invest a little bit, 20% less money in PPC, but we want the same results. That's probably not a growth strategy. But at events, that's very common to say, we're not going to invest as much, or instead of the beef, we're going to go with the chicken, or, we're going to go to this other destination, et cetera. But we do expect the same. And I think what it's done is it's produced, I try to get to the most concise a problem point in the events industry. I say it like this: event planners have been trained to not fail. That's their mission statement. Don't fail.
Mm,
And
yeah,
operating from not failure, or trying not to fail, is a problem when it comes to innovation. It's a problem when it comes to growth strategies. If your first thing is to not fail, then your growth potential is vastly
yeah.
diminished.
You're not playing to win. You're playing not to lose, like you said, right?
Exactly,
So yeah,
exactly. It's not a hungry attitude, and therefore
right.
the results are always sort of middle of the road. That's why you
Status
see,
quo.
yeah,
Yeah.
rinse, wash, repeat, like things that you hear in the event circles often, and usually it's suppliers are the ones who are the ones that lament this stuff, because look, they want to do better, right? Like they want to offer more. They want to do add more value, the latest thing, and they want to get excited about it. And they say, can you call me back when it's been in use, 1,000 times, and it works 1,000, every time
Yeah.
perfectly. And so they're never using the latest technology. Rarely they're new strategies. There's more opportunities for them to say no than there is yes. It's difficult culturally for technology and or for, like, let's say, just innovation in general and the events world to make good bedfellows. And that's a challenge that is ultimately at the C-suite's level. Like they need to empower their
Hmm.
organizers. They need to say like, look, if something, isn't all up, as good as it could be, that's okay, as long as we figure out what we learned from it, and as long as we don't, make the same mistake twice, and give that kind of permission and create a culture for that. Their events would, if they have the right people on the bus, they'd get better, by design, because they would be iterative, and they're not really iterative now. They're very linear and often almost binary. It was a good event or it was a bad event.
Yeah, and it's so much to unpack in what you just shared there, Nick. Because I'm like going, oh, I know what I want to ask next and talk about. And then you said something else juicy, and I should just stop talking because I'm going to forget what it was.
No
But
worries.
I do see a little bit of a cyclical, issue or vicious cycle happening that whether it's C-suite or just whoever's controlling the purse strings, right? They say do more with less, and they come, and I see it too when I'm working with our tech companies that we work with at trade shows. Like it's just they kind of, I can show them what we can do, and I can see them want more, but they can't, and then they kind of just limp in, right? And it's that idea that if and measurement, talking about measurement, talking about data,
That
that's
helps.
a nice to have, and yet it would prove the ROI to
Yeah. They don't
loosen up
see
the
it.
budgets,
That's
right? Like,
exactly it. They see
yeah,
it as another checklist item
yeah,
to add to the
line
things
item.
that they have to do. Like they have time to accomplish or the means to accomplish 8 things, and they've been asked to do 10. And here you come in with the 11th, but it's actually not the 11th thing. It's the means in order to gain more time, likely, and also more funding for lots of different things. And like that's what people have to understand, that data is it's not another post-con activity that you have to do, but it is the channel to understand things and to mitigate risk, which makes the opportunity to innovate more attractive and less scary. Um, all of those things come through additional data points, and like without it, it's scary guesswork. And I understand that if it's scary guesswork, no one wants the scary part, so they sort of bet on what already has not failed in the past, and cycle. If you want more than that, you have to build a case, and but before you build a case, and this is where I really come down empathetically with the organizers and the event marketers, is they have to have a culture that accepts that. Like they have to know that that we're going to have two outcomes with this engagement. One, we're going to learn something. We're going to learn about our audience. We're going to learn about what their deep desires are, their understandings of what turns them off, what turns them on, and we can apply these findings to other things that we do within the organization. It's not just about iteratively better events. It's actually about better community understanding, and it has a better impact, or has a broad impact on the entire organization. So you get that, and then you also get whatever the event outcome and the objective is. And if you balance those two things and you don't put it all on just one metric, I think single metric outcomes is too much pressure. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need to broaden the KPIs, and it not only tells you a deeper story, a deeper understanding of like how to position your events and your marketing to be more valuable in the broader sense, but also it just makes it so you don't pass fail off of one thing. It's usually like
Well,
leads generated or something like that.
yeah. Well, I was going to say, and then
Badge
you start
scans.
optimizing for something that you're going to get some vanity metrics happening. We're just
That's
going
right.
to be the coffee stand and just scan everyone, and there's some things like that I don't think have the strategic value. You know, that
You
can
game a
be.
system if it's like simple, right? It's very simple
Yeah,
to game a simple
that's
system. So
exactly it. Yeah,
yeah. So
exactly.
like
You're gonna.
I'll be at trade shows and they're like, can I scan your badge? And I'm like, I'm not a buyer for you at all. That doesn't matter. And I'm like, oh God, you're a bad marketer. And it's not only that you're a bad marketer because you've been asked to be a bad marketer. You've been asked
Yeah.
to, get as many business cards as you can or scan as many badges as you
Yeah.
can. And like no one pays their mortgage with, the amount of leads that you gather. You do it through relationships, and you don't have relationships unless you have trust, and you don't have trust unless you have a good fit and you're genuine and with who you're. So like all of that intention, it's very nuanced, and this is why events are messy as opposed to other channels where it's just like
Mm.
push them in, push them out, like we get as many as we can get, and we have our SDRs do this, and then these people do this, and just push, 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 push. And events are messy because they're really about, hopefully, a platform for accelerated trust, and it's just a more honest human experience, and therefore putting it through the traditional KPIs has never really been a good fit. That's why we have these sort of, it's good, it felt good, the vibe was great. It's not because people are lazy, it's because like it's messy, it's complicated. It's not like, look, I know when I get this many impressions that I'm likely to, on my digital ad, I'm likely to get this many MQLs, which means I'm likely to get this many SQ. It's not like that. I mean, it is a bit like that, but like somewhere in between. It doesn't have to be this alchemy of like, oh, we just sort of put money into events and hope for the best. Nor does it have to be this inhumane system where you're pushing people through like digital. Some hybridization of those two things, I think, is the best case scenario.
So let's get away from the messiness. Let's get some
Yeah,
structure.
sure.
Let's talk about Zenus and the AI behind that. What does it actually do? Let's
Yeah.
kind of talk about if event professionals are listening to this right now and they're going, holy, like this. They're like, I'm with you. This
Yeah.
is my pain.
Wait till they hear about how I
Tell-
do this.
Yeah, tell me there's a solution. Show me the light at the end of the tunnel, because I don't want to wallow too long. But I think we've defined the problem, defined the
Yeah.
issue. So Nick, what does Zenus do? Let's talk about that, and how does it address these issues?
Yeah. So what it does is it is a technology that is called facial analysis. It differs from a parallel technology, facial recognition, in as much as there's no personal identifiable information gathered. So there are sensors that are placed through live events. These sensors are connected to a very small, almost the size of like an Apple TV box that is running an NVIDIA chip and proprietary IoT box that has its own internet and is running an AI platform that is identifying objects. And the only objects that we're looking to identify are faces. So we don't, there's no video taken, there's no photos taken, there is no additional databases tied into it. All it's doing is counting as many objects that it can and locking into all these objects that are some sort of face, they don't know whose, and then taking the data that is the changes that take place within those faces, hundreds of them at the same time, 5 times per second. And the measurement in the chain, I know it's basically it's doing high speed math. It's only 1 meg of data up an hour, so it's like 1/10 of a photo up an hour as far as how much data it actually exports, but it's all numeric figures based on AI training of thousands and thousands of faces, and it's determining a number of different metrics. One are impressions, so in its field of view where it's been placed, and it's modular. You can have one, you can have like IMEX will be our 4th engagement with IMEX America in October. They'll have like 100. Just to give you a range, it could be as little or as much as you want, whatever you want to measure. And it will tell you the impressions of the space that it's being measured. It will tell you dwell rates, average time that those faces, whoever they may be, are in that space. And it will also tell you positive sentiment. And that is an experiential metric determining if there has been a positive facial reaction taking place within that. This is all against time. So what's the upshot for event organizers? There's a couple different applications. One is presentations. You can put these into a theater, keynote, breakout, whatever it is, and you just need a sample. I guess that's why I'm not in sales. You don't have to get all the faces, just enough to be a sample, and it will tell you ebbs and flows of positive sentiment against the time. So you'll see frequently trends in the energy of the room, Things like people walk in high energy, they're forced to watch a video by a sponsor, their energy dips. The presenter does his or her best to win them back, and it kind of climbs again. After 20 minutes, it starts to really spike down. Question why that is. Oh, and then at the end, it kind of comes up again, and then you start to ask questions amongst the trends, and you can compare these things. Every time there's a tech presentation, we see these predictable trends within this specific show. We get to like all of these findings that our analysts then are able to then discern to the organizer, saying, you know what, we prescribe your event should start an hour later. It seems like there's this much cutoff after 30 minutes. Consider, next time having a version of this for salespeople and making it only 10 minutes long because their attention spans are super short, or having a seat, all kinds of stuff, right? Depending on the industry, we would say like, oh, the expectations for length on this based on scientific communities could be 2 hours, all kinds of findings.
So Nick, this is really, I mean,
that's just one of
like reading the minds. Yeah, this is one application.
Yeah,
but it's like reading the minds of the attendees.
That's right.
And getting a sense of this, like you said, the sentiment, but it's like you don't have to, instead of relying on people to actually fill out the feedback forms,
they should do that too.
But I'm just saying this is different. This is different because there's moments that they may not even remember.
They won't remember.
Yeah. And little things that you could dial in. And I'm just thinking about building year after year on this kind of
benchmarking is a huge deal.
Holy, and then to go from let's say year 1 to year 5, what is the difference between 1 and 5 when you
should be better
kind of feedback? It's insane. So talk about some other applications. I mean,
the trade shows are where that's our main thing.
Talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the session one is probably the easiest to understand because it's just like, how are these doing? Our trade shows are our widest application and most frequently how people engage with us. So and it can happen at any level too. Sometimes the exhibitor is our client. Sometimes the organizer is our client. Sometimes the general contractor is our client. If it's in the sake of a show organizer or planner, what they do is they'll install these for sponsors or exhibitors as a proof of ROI. So you have a booth and you have badge scans, and that's, you live and die off that. If I am investing in your event, I'll give you a great story. Pretty large Fortune 500 company in the social media sphere that has some hardware devices. I'm being somewhat vague, but not really. And it's like a 40 by 40 space. It's completely walled in. There's a window into it on one side. And that's all you can see, and there's a door on the other side. So you walk around it, there it is. It's a technology show, and at the end of day one, they say, our numbers are really bad. Again, binary, right? This is how we express things. We expected larger numbers. Number one, what are those expectations? Pulled out of probably nowhere. But are we expected higher? It's really low. So we have two different binary roads that we can go after this. One, it's a bad show. So we're not going to be successful here. We're going to pull our money out of the show. We're not going to invest in any longer. For the organizer, that's pretty bad. Two, it's on us. It's our fault. We had a bad design. We'll do a different design. Which different? I don't know. Another creative coin flip. And we'll do that. And maybe that will be quote unquote good or bad next year. So that's the two options, really. Bad show or bad design. So we look at the data and we say after day one, what kind of show is this? They say technology show. Okay, well, that kind of tracks. It's about 70% male on the exterior of your booth and about 75% female in the interior of your booth. That's weird. You have essentially a male bounce rate. And the outside perimeter numbers of your booth are commensurate with the gender breakdown that you were told is this show. So that's a control and validated. The interior, though, why are you bouncing men? Like, what are they not into? And they're like, I don't know. We have designs of our specs of our hardware on the outside. You can look in the window and see people doing yoga. You can walk around and you can see the front of it. That is like, whoa, stop. There's one window and the only thing they can see is yoga. They're like, yeah, we have like 4 or 5 different rooms in there. And like the first room is that. We're like, well, maybe the guys don't want to do yoga in their suits or whatever, and they have a design bias. They're in the Silicon Valley. They're guys. They probably all do yoga there. In the Midwest, maybe not. So day two, they moved the yoga mat to the back and they put something else up front. And there was a 300% overall increase in the amount of people that came into their booth. So it wasn't a bad show. It wasn't a bad design. A subtle tweak based on a nuance was the answer. So depth is the problem. Like we don't have,
Yeah.
because of the data, we can't tell a story. The story
Yeah.
is guys were like, I don't know if I want to get trapped in a yoga room, and they
Yeah.
changed the story and they made their story more appealing to a larger, broader audience that was appealing to that group. So that's what depth and nuance reveals is, and it could have been a different thing completely. I mean, like we see crossroads of metrics being really the real storytellers, meaning, okay, we have low sentiment and high dwell rates. That's a bad line. We see
Mm.
high dwell rates, high sentiment. That's people, a massive group totally engaged. That's good.
Yeah.
So you can't live or die on one metric. You have to take all the metrics into account and say, what's that story tell you? And, we do that. We have dashboards everyone has access to. We also have analysts that can help tell those stories and unpack those. And it's available in real time or whatever. But what's interesting is it's depth and it's deeper understandings of people. And like that's the part that's exciting because it arms people with new ideas and it gets people to try things, and it's just fun.
Yeah. There's some interesting things because I'm familiar with some other measurement tools
Sure.
and
Yeah,
some that are based off of cell phone signature
totally.
would not pick up the male female bias,
It would
right?
not.
You need that piece. And so it's like the fact that that was figured out mid show, granted,
Mhm.
like they saved it in a sense.
Yeah,
I mean, I was also questioning this whole walling off the booth and making it hard for people to get in. And then the buyer
there's
safety of, do I
there's a
want to
lot of
go to
that.
something in that I'm going to be trapped in? Like, those are the things that my mind would automatically go to that I just kind of know from experience. But
But by the
um,
way, our stuff in the hands of someone like you is so much more valuable. So like we kind of position ourselves as like we're the tests, and people with lots of experience are the doctors, right? So you would
mm,
look at that and you would say, well, based on your designs, the wall might be friction, this might be friction, this might be that, this might be, and you would interpret that information completely different, and really trying to determine what the story is, because we could just tell you what happened, but the whys of it usually require some kind of intuition. So like the clients that are best for us frequently are people who have a lot of experience and understand, because they can read the tea leaves and be like, oh, now that I have more to understand and more to take in, I can
yeah,
be like, that surge at 2 p.m. that came the last 2 days, that's probably the coffee break. So like that's going to happen again. So what should we
yeah,
do to position our booth to be, they're not going to stop. We're going to get high impressions, but our dwell rates are going to crash because they're all coming by, but they're not going to stop. And it's not our fault. It's just we're on the path, right? So do we get oat milk? Do we get scones that we can hand to people with a business card? I don't know. Get creative. But like you can predict that behavior will happen again in that way. And then, coupled with creativity and understanding of what people are like in that, you get to really cool conversations. So we're just like revealing things. And then
yeah.
what they
That's
do
right. I
with it.
mean, it's the data, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't argue with the data. This is what But now you try to figure out why it was doing that,
Yeah.
and that's where you
Then
can make the decisions,
that's where
the
the craft comes in.
application
Yeah.
of those insights, right? So let's talk a little bit too about the ethics, because you said it is an
Yeah.
ethical thing, and
Yeah.
we did have another experience too with another measurement tool that used a camera. I know that remeasuring is an issue. Now I know that you're saying that it doesn't remember the person because
That's right.
it's
So
not
there's no
recognition.
blacklists or
It's
whitelists. Yeah.
counting, like
Yep.
it's just counting a face, I
Hmm.
guess, or eyeballs, if you will.
Yep.
So what happens if, and for the listeners only, I'm staring at the camera and I turn back around and now
Yep.
I faced away and came back. Is that count as two people? Or when you are looking at your metrics, and is that just kind of built into the system? You're like, well, yeah, that's how it's going to work. But the dwell time, am I a different person? How does it figure that out and still be
Yeah.
ethical?
The
Like,
object, that's a great question. The object itself, like if you were to turn around, it would still have you locked in as the same
as a
face like that.
person
Yeah,
that
but if let's say
has
you
a
walk 10
face
feet away and you
that,
came
yeah,
back, then
yeah,
it's another impression. So, and we're doing trend analysis too. So like really
yeah,
what you're getting as your expectations are is less so on like someone with an advanced clicker and
right,
more so around trend analysis. And then especially when organizers are deploying us across, like for instance, Expo is a good example of a show where they deploy us across the entire event. So it's covering every space. Then the trend analysis is more about benchmarking against other spaces, and therefore it's more about best practices, and you were doing this within, the best or the weakest amongst others. So therefore you have enough information to whittle down, oh, it's the ones with two screens that do better than it gives you more clues like that. So it's more about the trend. But yeah, it doesn't count anyone as individual. So like it's really technology with limitations by design. And I guess that's where the ethics come in. If we were to say, we know how much, exactly each individual, and we were tracking them the entire time and how many times they went to the bathroom, and who they were talking to and things like that, and tying that into a database. There's PII concerns associated with that. There's opt-ins that are required, and if you cannot opt in, so there's that. We can deploy this anywhere, and it doesn't require opt-in because there's no you in the data that we have. Like there's no way to extrapolate any information about you as an individual because it's aggregated, and it's anonymized. So there's no with that. So like it really comes down to like how much data privacy ends up being like a big component of what you care about. Like, would you, is the trend analysis of optimization of what you want to do with your space, with all the details that we give you, enough to make decisions up until the point where you don't want to collect information on individuals? That's like our sweet spot. Like we can't tell you how many times a CEO came in your booth. I could make an argument for that being really valuable information. On the other hand, you just would have to trade on your attendees' data to be able to have that insight. And if that is something that makes you pause or, consider, oh, how am I going to store this? What could take place in the future? Is that legal where I'm at? All of those concerns are very real. And like those are the things that you'd have to justify in order to overcome that. But if you did, that might be the right fit for you. We end up being ones where that's very large spaces do really well with us because they're like, I just need to know from a benchmarking perspective how I can do better each time. And we give you that data, and there's no friction. And if anyone's like, well, what's that camera for? You're like, oh, it's a sensor. It doesn't have any information about you as an individual. It's just a trend analysis. People are like, great, whatever. Versus if you were to be forthright and transparent and it was facial recognition, it's like, well, we're taking your faces and we're storing your biometrics, and we're attaching it to a database and connecting it to other databases in order for us to understand what you're doing. Not a good feel good all the time, but some instances, fine. Most of the time facial recognition is utilized for security purposes. Like an example is like Taylor Swift concerts. They're going to check your face to see if you're one of her stalkers, or weirdly in Madison Square Garden, if you're in an active lawsuit with them and you work for an organization, they won't let you in, which I just think is so fun and petty that I really appreciate a venue saying like, look, if you're the janitor of an organization that, and we can find your face, and they scrape social media in order to find faces and identify it based on
no one wants to be associated with that, as far as the companies want to keep their nose clean. And I mean, what you've talked about and just mentioning that it doesn't record, and it doesn't store anything.
There's no video photo.
I think there's and the fact that you can be like, I don't know, HIPAA compliant or whatever compliant that you need to be, right?
GDPR, even
GDPR, yeah, because if you have one person from Europe comes into your booth, there's a lawsuit there if you so
there's nuances.
Yeah.
Mobile World Congress was sued for using facial recognition for check-in a number of years back, and it wasn't that they that they didn't let people know ahead of time, because they did, because you have to use your or capture your face in order to create the key. It's the fact that they didn't provide another way to get in that didn't utilize biometrics. So like it's really like nuancy. So you have to know that kind of stuff if you're going to use it. And the risks have to, the reward has to be better than the risks. For us, we just don't really have a lot of risks associated with using us. But like I said, there's limitations associated with what we can give you. And I think that's where it comes down to, like, ethical AI is saying we could do more. We could strip more from this, but we choose to stop right here. And that is done with the purpose of providing basically a duty of care, but applying it to also personal data too.
Yeah. So Tell me a little bit about, now I don't want to get into specs too much or anything, but like what's the range
Yeah.
of these sensors or these cameras? Because I mean, depending on the booth and where, what, how wide is it seeing? How far does it see? How many cameras would you need for like a 20 by 20 booth or something like that? And maybe you just focus on the presentation area. I don't know.
Yeah, they're really modular. So like it really comes down to like we have a tool on our for our clients, and they can go in and place them, and it's called a coverage estimator, and they can take their floor plans, and the information stays on their, it's like a weird quirk, but it stays on their browser. We don't even see it, but like they can drop these things on there to be able to show that what coverage, because they could just want to learn about this and just want to learn about that and not other things. So as far as the numbers are concerned, they're 90-degree angles either way, 40 feet out per
Oh, that's
sensor.
good.
And yeah, it's pretty good. And then, like I said, you can do multiple sensors for a booth. You could do a single sensor for your booth. You could just get an impression based on, measuring one area. A lot of people for the larger booths, I mentioned earlier, a lot of our clients are organizers, but they're also exhibitors who use us for every show they go to because they want to audit every show and use their benchmarking
Right.
data. Yeah. And it basically,
It's
they're like, prices are
silly
going
to
up.
just record one show. It's silly. Like,
Yeah,
like
I
you
agree.
need to build on that,
Test.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The real value comes in on benchmarking data and iterative improvement. So, like for an exhibitor, within a calendar year, some of these organizations go to 100 shows. And they want to be able to, A/B test things. So what they'll do is they'll have like a bunch of different demos of different products, for larger scale booths, and they'll want to say what's our top performing one, and not just on the metrics of which one ended with lead scans, because not all the demos do, but even if they did, they wouldn't know which one kept people longer and also longer while still having a positive experience. I mean, we deploy these also in like airports as an example, and like airports use them completely different than events. Like they're really all they care about is operations. And we have a lot of events that use us for operational purposes too. Like, what's our flow? Is this space getting more than the other?
Mm.
Those kind of things, which we can discern as well. So it really just it depends on the objectives. I'm no fun in a client meeting because I'm like, I put it right back on the organizer. I'm like, what do you want to measure? And they're like, just tell me what it does. And I'm like, it measures attendee behavior. But I want to know, what would you want to know more? Like I ask too many
Yeah.
open-ended questions. They just want to be told what it does. But I'm like, oh, it does whatever you want. What do you want to learn? Like,
Yeah.
and to me, it's the exciting part is like an example is IMEX. They have have you been to the IMEX America?
No, but
Oh.
the fact that it's coming up makes me
Oh,
want to go.
it's one of the best
Yeah.
events in the world for sure. They have a corridor, which a lot of organizations do. They moved a couple years ago, post COVID, to a new space, and they had this walkway, and it leads to the trade show floor. And they're like, we want to know, do we have a corridor or do we have an opportunity? Not sure. It might just be a corridor. It might be an opportunity to provide value for some people. Our trade show floor pretty much sells itself. We can't really grow much more, but we have other opportunities, maybe, or it's not anything. So a couple years back, 3 years back, they had a bunch of activations that were in there, and we measured them, and it told them that like, oh look, it's actually monstrous impressions, which they expected, but the dwell rates amongst just this area where they were actually engaging with it, really high, and also the sentiment was really high. So what it gave them is confidence to go out and sell more of that. They're like, we have something here. Like this is good. They're getting value from it. So the people that took a risk with them in that space the first time, they re-upped, and they sold double the next time and double the next time. It was it $250,000 in the third year, because it's all the prices are out there. So I guess I'm not hiding it, or I'm not giving anything away. So they made $250,000 off that hallway last year. But 3 years ago, they didn't know if they had anything. So
Right.
are there spaces for sponsors like that in your shows? Probably, but
Yeah.
you be able to say this is a great place. Lots of people walk by. Soft. This is how many impressions you should expect. The average dwell rates are around this time, and everyone, has 85% of the people have a positive experience with it. That's a lot easier to sell. And they
Well,
got like Major
and
League
wouldn't that be
Baseball and
nice
Disney. Yeah,
for
yeah.
exhibitors to be able to say, like,
Report
oh,
back.
by the way, in this booth location last year,
Yeah,
the
this is
person
what I
who
got.
had it, the company had this for metrics, like as a show organizer, and you'd go, yes, I want to buy that. Like
That's how
considering the
digital
attendance is
sells.
the same, it's like you're actually buying value, predictable value, as
Yeah.
opposed to this kind of like
It's more
again, we're going
tangible.
back to the softness of events when we
Yeah.
first
It's a
started.
good show. You
It's,
should be at it. It
yeah,
says something to be
yeah,
there.
yeah,
I agree with those things, but also those are nothing statements. I mean, like they're not wrong, but they're also not that valuable, right? Like, oh, why are we going to be at the show? It was a new CMO that took over for, let's say, a toy company this year, and then San Diego they had a big show that they had a big booth at, let's say, and in that show the new CMO said, "Why do we do this show?" And the organizer who had been there for 20 years said, "We have to do the show because it's the whatever show it is." And they were like, "Well, it doesn't mean anything to me. I don't really care about that. Tell me why we do it and prove that we needed to be there." And they're like, "It says something if we're not there." Okay, what does it say? How much does it say? What's the impact on our business? And they don't really know because they're habitually doing things. I think marketers are like one new person away from those very obvious real questions where they look like their pants are down, right? You're like,
yeah.
we just do it because we do it because we do it. And you're like, well,
Uh,
that's not
uh,
really responsible. So be able to be like, oh, we do this because, it creates customer lifetime value through increased brand equity that we get through, this many impressions, which, and it's coupled with positive experiences, which to the tune of this number. And they go, great. Sounds like you cross your, I's and dot your T's. You're doing a good job. Do you want more money? Like that. That's hopefully how we want these
that,
conversations to
that
go.
would be ideal. And
That'd be
something
great, right?
that just came up for me too, which, okay, when you think about an event and you've got your bronze, the 10 by 10s, the silver 10 by 20s, the different packages, right? And there's only 8 platinums or whatever, kind of, I'm just making this up, right? For
Yeah.
his booth
Yeah.
size, all that kind of thing. There's something that can be done with this technology that you actually measure, let's say like the planning, like let's say the trade show is a big rectangle,
Yeah.
right? And if
Frequently.
you put all these booths of these sizes in this dimensions, this is what we normally see as flow, right? For this show or whatever. And then you start realizing that other that you can dynamically price booth locations.
Pro rating. Yeah.
Once you
We've had some people do that with
standardize
us.
the
Yeah.
actual look of it, because it's like the platinum actually may not be worth it, right? But this gold in this one area is actually, well, and so that's one way that they could help sell it to you in that sense.
Yeah.
Although we don't want to give shows any more excuse to crank up prices or anything like that. Maybe we shouldn't have said
Yeah.
it.
I mean, if you back it up with tangible value, then I
Yeah.
mean that's a better argument than just saying our
Yes.
price has gone up, so yours are going to go up, or it's a new year. I
Yeah.
think that there's this is the year where there's pushback to that, for sure. I think what a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff I've been getting an education at I engage with a number of events with Lippman Connects, and they have these events called exhibitor roundtables where they have these very large institutional shows, NAB, Consumer Electronics Show, big shows, and they're bringing back exhibitor data, and they're trying to do as many shows, but they just don't have the same budget because all of their prices have gone up, from travel to really like all their cogs. And we try to increase our show prices too, but like it's just too much. So they're saying that like people are losing a couple shows in their the amount of shows that they contribute to, and like that means that the competitiveness is way up. So it really becomes a value add game. How are you providing more value? And you can provide value only so much with a booth. Carpets better, the 2 trash cans.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you're like, it's just space, right? So being able to give them data and say like, look, we're going to work with you and we're going to give you data that allows you to have an understanding. Like, or more and more organizations are using us, and they're just giving it to their exhibitors as a justification for why the price is going up. And they're like, well, apples to oranges now. Like, this one allows me to have reports that I can go back and look smart to my leadership, and the other one gives me how many leads I scanned. And and what's great is that it's a benchmark data. So then, if you get them hooked on it once, they kind of have to report with those numbers the next year. So, and an organizer is just like, or a trade show, company is like, we give them these data points, and they kind of like, it's irresponsible if next year they don't also, have
Yeah.
those as well. So that's another, opportunity too, is the continuity. But, It keeps people honest on all sides of the fence for sure. For me, like just personally, what I get is there's so many stories that emerge, macro stories of attendee behavior that is generally true a lot of the time. Very specific data points that would only be the case, the story that would only be the case at this one show. It shows you that like a lot of the expectations and things that you think are true for everyone might not be true for your show. And it's, I don't know, it makes everything a game.
Yeah, I'd be fascinated into like, and I don't know, what kind of data, not when I say data you keep, but like insights that you are able to then say, oh, well, you just mentioned NAB or CES, that it's like this show has a tendency to have this happen, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm into the like really getting to know my audience and like going, oh, okay, I cannot get too much into message here. They will get turned off. And so
100%. That comes
I
up.
like make it more about a good time and the interaction and the
Yep.
engagement, and then a little bit of messaging, right? And then some shows you can come at them hard, you can boss them around, they're very compliant, like,
Yep.
and you figure that out. But I just love, that know your audience piece, right? Like it's just so interesting to kind of be able to dial that in. I mean, obvious demographics. Is there an age thing too? Like I know there's a gender
Yes,
split. You can
there
kind
is.
of get
And
age
again,
estimation. Yeah,
yeah, without collecting PII, and
yeah,
also we don't deliver on something that we can't promise. So like a big part of our technology is being able to say things that we do that we can actually do. Like if you put our technology in front of one person and say, did they have a positive experience or not? It would be like worse than flipping a coin. One of the ways that the technology works is that it works with audiences and groups, and it looks at the entire group, and with whatever stimuli creates the positive change, it has to be a median average of that to
yeah.
be
Law of bigger
codified.
numbers has to be in play,
That's right.
right? Yeah, that kind of
Samples.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so much nuance differences between individuals
Yes,
that if you do it on a one, it's junk science. But when you do it in a crowd, it gives you enough sample to be able to discern that this actually happened. But when it comes to, I'm sorry, I got off on a rail there. What was the question before that?
well, no, I think I was talking. Now
Yeah.
I was talking about the age piece, right?
Oh yeah, the
The
HP. So all that said, we don't over deliver on saying like how many 29-year-olds versus 28-year-olds. We have an
right.
over 40, under 40, just
Yeah,
how we have like biological male, biological female. If it can't discern any of those things clearly or with certainty, it just weeds it out because it is a trend analysis and it's aggregated anonymized data. So it's more about, it's not about like there was 402 over 40-year-olds. It was like this audience is
yeah,
85% over that. So it's more about statistical trends than it is about number counting. But you can say, like, I can look even at a session and say you lost everybody over 40 at this point. Like in this
that's very
section right
interesting.
here, it wasn't. Yeah, and more often than not, it's marketers who are looking for the under 40, especially associations. We're trying to figure out how do we make this group. We don't do well with this group, or this group actually for this brand very important. So it then says, well, you're doing well, but if you just look at under 40, you're not doing that well. So then it would have been a false signal without the nuance versus an actual understanding for this is a challenge and growth potential here. So it can separate down lines on that. We've done a lot of refinement on that. I mean, we can do a little bit finer as far as ages in custom scenarios, but off the shelf, we do the 40 and under 40, and most of the time, that's what gets things done.
For sure. Hey, Nick, we've gone way over time from
That's
what I
fine.
normally do,
Leave
but
it to me.
we're like, this was very interesting. There's some good stuff. And I mean, I know we could talk about this even longer because I have other questions in my mind, but I'm going to go like, I'm going to put a stop to this,
Understood.
put a stop to this
I don't want
episode.
to wear out my welcome, but I
Yeah.
love talking, and I'm
So,
very passionate about the
yeah,
industry that's given me a
for sure.
living. All my friends are in, and I've picked a route to contribute that I think is one where it helps us tell our story and our worth. And like that's the part that I really love about what I do is that what we do, it really matters. It makes a big difference in people. It changes people. Digital is easy to prove. It doesn't move the dial. Events hard to prove, but it really does. So I want to be able to arm all of my friends and all the people that I work with and say, tell your story and get what you need. Like, let's have less stressful lives and do cooler stuff.
Oh, that's so awesome. Nick, how can people reach out to you?
Very easy to find via email, Nick at zenus.ai, LinkedIn, NickBorelli. Very much on the grid. Google me or ask your favorite LLM.
All right. Awesome. Nick, it's so great that you could come. Maybe we got to do it again sometime. I think there was more to uncover.
I'd love to.
I know it's great, having a fellow podcaster come on as a guest because there was
because we have good mics, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's a big part of it.
Been hidden the whole
Exactly.
time. So thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in once again to a marathon edition of Engaging Personalities. Until next time, you know what to do. Stay engaged.
Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engagify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening and stay engaged.